This Ku Klux Klan member was given a life sentence behind bars, but you will never believe what the exact reason was. Otherwise known as the KKK, the secret organization was started as a hate group in the United States, with the sole purpose of bringing hatred upon society. Throughout history, many people say the KKK was started by the Nazis after World War II in 1944, but it was actually started all the way back in December 24th of the year 1865 in Pulaski, Tennessee. And even though almost 160 plus years has passed, you will be shocked that they are still around and highly active. Today, we will take a deep dive into powerful KKK members being sentenced to life in prison and their reactions to never seeing the light of day again. Here are 4 KKK members reacting to a life sentence given by the judge. At number 4, Edgar Ray Killam. Edgar was a famous KKK member born in the year 1925 in the city of Philadelphia, Mississippi. He orchestrated the murders of 3 innocent men: 21-year-old James Chaney, a young African-American man, Michael Schwerner, age 24, and 20-year-old Andrew Godman, 2 Jewish men from New York. The incident took the world by storm and was called the Freedom Summer of 1964, as television stations all over the world publicized the story. The 3 men were civil rights leaders taking part in one of the biggest civil rights rallies to take place in Mississippi. After the rally was over, they heard of an African-American church being set on fire. As they get into their cars and drive on over, all of a sudden they are pulled over by enraged cops. What they didn't know though was that the officer that pulled them over was actually a KKK member out to get them. The cops stated the men were going over the speed limit but failed to show actual proof. Later that day, the men were taken to jail and released. As they were getting into their cars and driving back home, they realized they were being followed by a large group of Ku Klux Klan members. After a couple of miles, the KKK then corners the men, makes them get out of their cars, and horrifically shoots each of the men over and over till they bled to death. More heinous than anything else, their bodies were found almost 45 days after the incident, buried almost 10 feet in a dam in a random location in Mississippi. Unfortunately, at the time, racism was still popular in the state of Mississippi, and none of the killers were even charged, even though the state knew they were guilty. But thanks to the efforts of the Federal Bureau of Investigation and Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, 18 men were handcuffed and put under arrest, including the famous KKK leader at the time, Sam Bowers. Along with the police officer who arrested the 3 men and famous Edgar Ray Killam, all of the men were sentenced behind bars, except for Edgar. For some reason, he dodged a prison sentence and escaped responsibility for his crime. But not so fast, Edgar. Decades later, a reporter that was taking a closer look at the incident came out and discovered not only newfound evidence, but witnesses as well, with never-before-heard details of what happened that night in the woods. After all the evidence was put together, it was clear that Edgar strategically planned to murder these men, and in the year 2005, he was once again arrested at the age of 79 years old. With the new evidence, it was an easy conviction for the court, and Edgar was given a 60-year long and dreadful sentence. Unfortunately, Edgar showed no emotion in court, just sitting still with a blank face, as he knew at 79 years old he would probably never see civilization again. At number 3, we have Sean Berry and the infamous John King. In the year 1998, these two men took the life of James Jr. in the city of Jasper, Texas. While driving on the road, they saw James hitchhiking and asked him if he wanted a ride. Deceiving his trust, the two men took him to an abandoned road, repeatedly beat him unconscious, and then attached his body to the back of a Ford pickup truck, dragging him for miles. It was a scene out of a horror movie. Sadly, James died on the spot, as the injuries were just too severe to outlive. More evil, the two men dropped his body off at the front of an African American church, a true symbol of unfair racism. Now, you might ask yourself, in an era where no street cameras were existent, how were these men caught? When the FBI decided to investigate the murders, they found a wrench hand tool with the engraved words Berry, owned by Sean Berry, and a lighter that had the word possum on it. In prison, among the KKK gangs, John King was famous for having this nickname, being another easy clue for investigators, and a nail on the coffin. It was obvious that this was a prominent hate crime. When the two men went to court, they were shocked as the jury instantly convicted them of their evil crimes. While John King was given a life sentence behind bars to never see the light of day again, the court gave an even harsher punishment to Sean Berry. In 2011, he was executed under Mississippi law, as for some reason the court decided that death was a punishment he deserved. When both men were being sentenced, Sean Berry stood still, looking almost like a man without a soul. And even worse, John King actually laughed and grinned in court when he was being escorted by court officials. At number 2, we have Kayla Norton and Jose Torres. In 2015, both Kayla and Jose were charged with a hate crime as they invaded a young boy's birthday party in the state of Georgia. When the two entered the birthday party, they insulted the victims with racist words, threatened to use weapons, and even waved Confederate flags to show dominance of their race over the African American race. Fortunately, the judge was a highly feared individual, and he quickly humbled the two. Kayla cried in court and apologized for her hate crime behavior, and told the families it was all a mistake that would never be repeated again. Even Jose, a grown man, was crying as he knew his actions would come with serious consequences. The judge, with no remorse, sentenced Jose to almost 13 years behind bars, and Kayla to 6 years behind bars. Best of all, both individuals were to be forbidden from ever entering Douglas County, Georgia, ever again. At number 1, we have Russell Courtier. On a regular night in the city of Gresham, Oregon, Russell exited a neighborhood 7-Eleven and all of a sudden got into a heated altercation with 19-year-old Larnell Bruce Jr. No one knows the words that were exchanged, but for some reason the fight took a quick U-turn, angering Russell. He got into his SUV Jeep, running Larnell over, killing him on the spot. When investigators looked further into this case, they realized that Russell previously belonged to a prison gang based on the premise of racial hatred. Police also discovered his hat on the floor of the 7-Eleven parking lot, as well as the 7-Eleven cameras capturing the complete fight and murder from beginning to end. With substantial evidence, police officers issued a warrant for his arrest, as he was going to have a long and awaited trial. Unfortunately, police officers also arrested his girlfriend, as it was her car that was used to murder Larnell. The court trial found Russell guilty of a racial hate crime as well as murder. While in a twist of fate, cameras showed his girlfriend Colin Hunt, who was sitting in the passenger seat of the Jeep, cheering him on to commit the such crime, and the court was furious of her behavior. She was forced to plead guilty to manslaughter, causing her as well to receive a 10-year sentence. Both Russell and Colin stayed silent with no words to say. The only thing that they did was repeatedly shed tears as they realized their actions not only ended a life but brought sadness upon society. If you liked this video and want to see more videos just like this, please tune in every week at Enlighten, and remember that boring videos do not exist on our channel.